Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to the Moana Nui Podcast. Tonight we have a wonderful new episode for all of you. But before we get started, my name is Moana McAdams, and I am the host and founder of the podcast. I am also the author of the Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea children's book series, editor for the Wildcard Comicals. Wildcard Chronicles comic book series, publisher at Burning Spear Comics, and champion for Indigenous communities all over the globe. Tonight, I'm always, as I always am, and I can't speak tonight for some reason, so forgive my blah, 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 blah. I'm joined by the wonderful Dana Morgan, my co-host.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dana. For those that may or may not know me, I am a cosplay event and staff con photographer. You see a lot of my photography with cons such as MomoCon, Anime Week in Atlanta, and Dragon Con, and also DC Comics. I also am an event planner, a voice actor, and a whole lot more. So we're so excited for you to tune in for tonight's episode with our amazing guests. And before we get started, let me go ahead and hand it back over to my lovely co-host, Moana.
Thanks, Dana. So before we bring our guests on, we just have a couple announcements. Well, really just one main one, maybe two. So for those of you who may not know, we do have a Kickstarter going on right now for our podcast to help us raise funds for all of our platform costs, our editing services, all the wonderful behind the scenes things that is required to run the show. So if you have not yet checked it out, please go to moananuipodcast.com. There is just over 24 hours left. It's the last day to check it out and see if there's anything that you would like. We have lots of great rewards and fun things that you can get from getting early access to our episodes, getting merch. So we have some lanyards for when conventions come back, or even just going to work and sporting the Moana Nui podcast. Yes. We have opportunities to come on the show. We have art commissions by the greats like Marcus Williams. He's amazing. So we have a couple more of those left. But yeah, go check it out. It's down in the ticker if you want to take a look. And we thank you in advance for your support because our community has been amazing. I mean, we're in a great position now already and very, very grateful. So because of all of you and all of our supporters and our listeners, we are able to bring wonderful guests and share their stories with you. So tonight is actually a follow-on episode. Alika is one of our guests tonight, and we had him on season 1. So he was with us at the very infancy stages of our show. And we're really excited because he and I talked about his work in gaming and with the Hawaii's youth in the community that he's working within and how they use games to incorporate both culture and societal issues that we're all facing right now. So the team was so generous to come on and join us tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about each of them, and then we'll come and have them introduce themselves. So the name of their group and their team is called Craftist Games, and it's made up of Jeffrey Vierra. I cannot even talk tonight. Alika Spahn Naihe and Jack Hobbs. So they started in 2019, and Craftist Games is an independent game development company that makes games for social good. They focus on issues and topics that affect society as a whole, and specifically our island home of Hawai'i. Jeffrey is from Makaha, Oahu, and he is a software engineer who has worked with game design studios such as Square Enix, I hope I'm saying right, and Konami. Awesome. Alika is a former guest, as I mentioned, and he's from Kalihi, Oahu, and is a digital and traditional artist. He's very talented, so I would highly recommend his artistic services. Jack Hobbs is a 2020 graduate from Nānākuli High School and is a former student of Jeff and Alika's after-school game design class. And he's the newest member of the team, and we are so excited to have all of them here tonight. So let's bring them on. How's it?
Sound effects there. Sorry.
Sound effects.
Thank you guys.
Mahalo,
Super
Nui.
excited to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Glad to be on again and with my
Yes.
team.
Yes, it's good to hear the familiar voices again. Yeah, so let's get started. Jack was the first to lead off when we started the show. So we'll start with Jack. Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you grew up in Hawaii, and what it was like for you.
Chew! Hey everyone, my name is Jack. And basically what it was like is a mixture of all of America in a weird way. Because in Nānākuli, there's a saying, we're not country anymore, but we're not anything else anymore. Because there's so many diverse cultures where you could have immigrants and also people coming from the suburbias coming to Nānākuli. You will have people riding on horses up in the mountains or going hunting up in mountains. You have fishermen going and just doing whatever they want to do. So that's basically my small community down here. Just trying to figure out life and trying to live the most out of it. And I started off with these two wacky rascals when I was in my sophomore year. And before them, my grades was like F, negative F, which I still have no idea what the hell that means. And then F and another F. And then after them, I was like, okay, you know what? I might as well stick it with school. If it's not to make my grades better, just to show that I actually care for their class. And yeah, ever since then, it's just been one event after the other, trying to teach kids and my own generation about the things that we could do in game development and how it can change the world without even making a finger.
That's amazing. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your story because I remember one time when I was in high school too, like I was typically a pretty good student, like A's and B's. And then one semester, like I brought home an F and my mom was like, what the heck is going on with you? So it is so interesting how different and unexpected things can help you turn things around. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah. Welcome, Jack. Let's go to Jeff.
Not much to say. I'm Jeff. That's pretty much it. No.
Same old.
I always have the most difficult. We do a lot of talks and stuff like that. Like, I mean, it's so hard to talk about yourself. I mean, I find it very, very, very difficult. But I'll try to do my best. So yeah. So like Alika mentioned, or like you guys mentioned, I'm from Makaha originally. I moved out of there, I don't know, 30 years ago or 25 years ago or so, just to be closer to school. And it was just really hot. It's just really, really, really hot. It does terrible things on my lily white complexion, unfortunately. So I moved out of there, but not a single day goes by that I don't miss it. And I've been trying to convince my wife for years to move back there, because whenever I do go back there, it really feels like, this is home. This is what home feels like.
Jeff, let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Try and describe Makaha to our continental audience.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, that's going to be a tangent. Well, actually, it's a terrible place. There's buildings everywhere and pollution, so don't go there. It's like the last gem, really, in Oahu is really. I mean, we call it Makaha, but it really is. It's fortunately it's the furthest away from Waikiki going west, and then culturally and traditionally it was kind of like an afterthought for the island, and it's always been a place of rebellion and of strong beliefs that persist to this day. So yeah, that's kind of Makaha in a nutshell. So for me, grew up in Makaha, and from an early age, gaming essentially saved my life. Gaming was the thing that taught me math, that taught me reading. And this, way before gamification became a thing. We were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and shame, if you don't know how to calculate quickly and figure out that you got to do +5 damage or whatever on the fly. So I made sure that I knew algebra and I knew what variables meant and I knew what all this meant, because it would be embarrassing in front of my peers playing games and not understanding these numbers. So it's something that I carried with me throughout high school, and then into my 20s, and it was my dream to work for a game design company, which I had the privilege of doing. But it sucks working for a AAA company. It's like every other business, and businesses, gaming companies, it's very in vogue now, right? They have different kind of cultures than back then, but back then it was terrible. Like, I never knew what I was working on. It was just a bunch of code that I was doing every day, and I burnt out of that and left the industry for a while, and then ended up sort of retiring. I made this semi-successful mud game, which is, if your viewers don't know what that is, it is a text-based adventure game like World of Warcraft. So just kind of wrap your head around that. It's all description based and things like that. And before Patreon and Kickstarter, we created a way that that we could get paid for doing this. So they would just kind of send us money and checks in the mail, and that was enough to kind of take care of ourselves. But what happened was, I'd go to these parties with my wife, and we'd hear this comment, what does your husband do? Oh, he makes games, and you kind of like, games. Oh, so your husband's kind of a loser? Games? How old is he? So I ended up getting an actual job at Toshiba, which I've been there for I think 18 years now, and we have she just retired. We have a strong woman president. So the best jobs I've ever had was a female in charge and a female direction. And with PALS, which is how we met Jack, and that program, female at the top. So I've been at Toshiba, and then I had an opportunity to go and work at Nānākuli High School and teach game design. That was almost a decade ago at this point. Alika came on several years after that. And then I'm here today. That's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
We're tapping more gray hair.
Yeah, a lot more gray hair. Thanks.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So cool. Yes, females run the world.
Yes.
Alika and I was talking about this a little bit the other day. Yeah, that's awesome. Which that has cultural ties too, right? Like a lot of Western views like put men at the center and in leadership positions, but if you look throughout indigenous cultures, it was the women that had lots of leadership roles. So that's awesome.
Definitely. I know that in like some third world countries, when they give money, they give it to the woman, right? They don't give it to the husband. I remember Saul was a friend of ours, Solomon, also was telling me that story where he went down to do some work in South America, and they would give the money to the female because they knew it would go to feed the kids.
Yeah,
simple little things like that,
Right. Not going to be on a truck or a weapon or anything like that.
Yes. So Alika, what about you? For people who never saw you the first time, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am Alika Spahn Naihe. I'm from Kalihi, so that's more in the town area. It's closer to Waikiki and Honolulu. So I grew up in that area, and I was always drawing as I was younger, but I ended up following the footsteps of my Uncle Jay, and my Uncle Jay is he's only about 7 years older than me, so he was more like my older brother. So I went to all the same schools he went. I went to the same. He ended up working at Pearl Harbor, so I ended up working at Pearl Harbor, and I was working there for about 7 years. At first, I was an electrician apprentice, and then I became an electrician journeyman, and then I got into nuclear electrical engineering technician position. So I was doing that for a little while, and I don't know. started going to school for engineering through that program as a technician, and they sent me to school, and I started hanging out with all of these younger Hawaiian kids, and I was in this. I got into the Hawaiian studies classes, and so as I got into that, it just really started changing. I started learning more about my own culture, and it started changing my values. And I just decided that, every time I would be in school most of the time, and then I'd come back to Pearl Harbor to report my grades and talk to my supervisor and whatnot. And I ended up just coming back to tell them what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, why are you learning Hawaiian stuff? Like, it's waste time, waste money. Like, what are you doing? And I really had no other classes to take and no other things I was interested in. So there was nothing wrong with me taking that. And they always made it an issue. And so I just started pushing away from that and started coming back to my roots. And so I ended up leaving and helping one of my friends out make a game. So he had written out the story, and he had asked me to draw the art for it and help him make the game, or an actual game. And we did that together, and that was the start. That was my start to making games and getting back into art as more as a profession than a hobby. And then I met Jeff, and Jeff brought me in to teach this after school class by this wonderful organization led by Kei Fukuda called PALS, Place-Based Learning on the West Coast. And so I came in, my first class, Jack was my first student. So yeah, this is great that we're all a team together. So really, Jeff is the one that got my career going. So yeah, that's why I'm so blessed, so grateful to have this team around me, and that we're all together and we're interviewing together. Like, man, came pretty far, guys. Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, coming full circle with I find it so cool that it was like an after school program that kind of brought you all together in this particular space, because like what kind of attracted me to how I found Alika was the art on his Instagram page. And when I was asking him about it, he's like, oh yeah, that's for a game. So tell us, like, what specific games were you guys working on when you guys met, and like help our listeners know like what because what appealed to me was like the cultural aspects of the game. So yeah, help us learn about that.
Okay. Jeff, you want to tell them about Huli?
Sure. So that's that. Well, so all the games that we develop, well, not all the games, I would say most of the games that we develop are developed in class, as part of the curriculum, as a process. And what we really just find out is what's pissing kids off. And rather than have them to, throw stones or, go find some destructive means of getting that energy out, we quantify scientifically and mechanically what that is. And that just happens to be a game. And it just happens to be fun to play in that environment. And we explore that landscape collectively, that we build collectively. So that game that he's referring to is Huli, which is, I can say this very, very humbly, I think that is the most grandiose game that we made, right? I think it would be fair. And it is the concept and the seed of this game is from a dear friend of mine, Solomon Enos, where we started this project together. And and when we started this Huli game, I was just kind of sort of a consultant. I would kind of come in and kind of talk about the mechanics, and Saul would do the art. And it was kind of left to other teams to develop. And they just couldn't do the heavy lifting, I guess. There's just no way around it. So eventually, years later, it came back to me. And, Kei Fukuda, our boss, I guess, or our mom,
Our leader.
our mom
Yeah.
our mom
Yeah.
in that sense was like, Jeff, Jeff, we really gotta finish that Huli game, just because of the impact and what that game's about. So Huli, the game, is about characters, much like the Avengers, going into the community and removing eha and hurt in the community. So that's basically the elevator pitch of that. But when you go a little bit deeper, how the game actually operates is thematically, the game itself is sent from the future to our time frame to play as kids and students and adults, to begin this meditative practice so that we can build a different future to where the future is in the future. So kind of like, I know you guys are Dragon Ball Z fans, like it's kind of like this trunk story, or I mean any, you know, Back to the Future or whatever kind of time story where they try to go back and, you know, smash that butterfly. Well, I don't think you smash butterfly. Or create a different ripple effect, right?
Exactly.
To try to save, smash the butterfly on purpose, right? And then you come back and it's all butterflies. Right. So it's what's interesting about Huli is that one, what are the players? What is the player representation of the game? So you have the Mahiai and the Lavaia. So they are from two different time frames because in the future they were able to use technology to kind of figure out, well, to get a narrative of different time frames and then to envision that time frame in a character. So we have the fisherman and the fisherwoman and the farmer. Then we have the kumu, and in the future, all knowledge is passed on by these pohaku stones, like these face statues, and all teaching in the future is done through board games. So we now specifically, that's something to kind of touch on. Huli is a board game, and we've moved away from digital. Well, we haven't moved away. We're actually making a digital game now as one augmented reality game. But we found that tabletop board games, there's something special there that really resonates with kids, and it's because you kind of see as well, and with me as well. So in the future, they figured out that the best means to teach is through playing a game, right? I mean, it's kind of like a meta level of what we're trying to tell. So that's Kumus, and then there's the modern warrior, which is our time frame in our characters. So Kumus from the future, the modern warrior, and really the art from this, and Alika did all the art for this. You know, we're so privileged to have him as our pocket artist. You know, you kind of like summon him like a Pokemon. Draw that, you know. It's like, you got it, buddy. You know, is we asked our kids, you know, what does a warrior mean to me? Oh, konohiki, actually. Yeah. What does a warrior mean to you guys? And you know, they just kind of looked at each other like, my dad, my mom. So he drew like this dad coming home like with a green construction shirt on, taking off his shoes, and so think like, remember, these are the Avengers. These are the characters that are saving the planet. It's just this dad, you know, just this dad that works all day long, deals with the problems right in front of him. So that's the characters. Now, how the game operates is based on actual historical events. So we have this event deck that you kind of flip over, and then this bad thing happens, and then it disperses hurt in the community. The events are the overthrow, the wells that were dug in the early 1900s in Makaha. So actual events that were happening. So while you're playing the game, you're like, you know, inadvertently kind of learning, like, oh wow, you know, the Hawaiian kingdom was overthrown. Wait, no, can't be. They're always in the United States, right? No, man, no, it's still illegally occupied, actually. Yeah. You know, so there's all these, you know, like prompts, and you look at the art, and you're like, wow, what do you mean? Pokai Bay Learning Center? There's homeless people there now. It's just a beach where you go. No. It was the pinnacle of like astronavigation once upon a time, and learning, a center of like learning. So we're kind of like shoehorning, you know, all these like things to learn in the game. And just one more thing to touch on that was actually the most darkest time for making the game, was we doing the research on these events that happen, because what we have to do is know what the event is, do a little bit of research on it, and then say, okay, how does this event mechanically impact the game? So we have to kind of like relive as designers and students the trauma of that experience, and then bring it into the game, so that as players, as you're removing hurt and eha from the West Coast, which is where this game takes place in, it feels like when Hurricane Iniki came through, or land was bought up, and you know, made divisions of land. Like, what do you mean? Like, if I cross this side, it's your land. If I cross this side, it's my land. What do you mean? The river runs through, you know. So so that's Huli. That's I would say that's one of that's kind of our opus game that we've made, and we were able to actually finish it.
Yeah.
Within the 1 year.
Yeah.
Ish.
Oh, ish.
I mean, as you guys can imagine, just the magnitude of what this game is. I mean, it's almost like we're like writing the new King Testament, you know, the King James Testament. It's like we're writing this. We got all eyes looking at us, and all these aunties and kumus like, "Where's your Kita boy?" You know, like all this. Like, we're just like treading very carefully as best as we can. But I mean, it's also a game, right? So it's got to be fun. It can't be a documentary. Kids don't like that. You know, it's got to be like, it's got to feel epic when you're going through. But at the same time, most importantly, it's got to be respectful for the culture that we're representing.
I love that you brought that part up, because I feel like as creatives that it's always a very delicate line between like wanting to just like highlight and bring attention to the culture, but then being super like, oh, like I don't want to piss anybody off either, right? Or do it wrong. But you know, we all have to start somewhere, right? So
exactly.
Yeah. I didn't know Pukaibei was the Center for Astronavigation. Oh, I just learned something tonight. See, guys, games.
For the West Coast, for that time, when the Maui Chiefs started coming in to invade, Pukaibei turned into an Oahuan tradition center for education. They started teaching boys, girls, men, kane, wahine, everybody, because they wanted to maintain the Oahuan traditions. So Pukaibei became that.
That's so cool, especially because my family comes from Maui Chiefs.
Now, of course, you pointed out about the games and you have them behind you, but then I also, as you were talking, I had to notice that you had the Studio Ghibli blanket behind you from Ponyo.
Oh, my chair. Yeah.
So that made me also wonder, because a lot of times as creatives, we often get inspired through other creatives, whether it's from other countries or anything else, to spark that creativeness, but also bring a new step of connecting to the audience that you need, especially trying to attract teenagers and kids. Where do the three of you often find inspiration in to help you find that connection to your audience, but still have that, bring that education to it aspect also?
Oldest and the longest, right? So
Me
you go first. You go first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oldest. Come on.
Okay, well, there's two answers to this. One is, like you mentioned, the relevancy. So I am an old ancient man. I know I don't look. I'm a very old man. So for relevancy, that's why Jack. So Alika's in one pocket, and he's like the artist. Jack is in the other pocket. Jack, does this make sense to kids? Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, but really, it's. But I'm an avid gamer, so I'm always. I mean, there was a point where I was buying literally every board game that was released week by week. Video games is pretty much the same thing. I'll pretty much get everything that gets released and just kind of dip my toes in it, just so that when I'm talking to kids and they can, you know, talk about any Monster Hunter, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I just defeated this, and they kind of look at me like, what? This old guy knows what Monster Hunter is? So yeah, but for me personally, I always, I mean, with music, whatever, I always go back to the roots, right? That's kind of the like we talked about the ripple effect. I always go back to, where did that ripple start? Go back there, and then kind of look at, you know, whether it's music or movies or whatnot, and kind of think about like how did this person make this ripple effect? Like, and is normally a misunderstood person, a deviant, somebody that thought differently, and that really made lasting change. So Hayao Miyazaki is definitely one of those. Yeah, that's my therapy move. Yeah, that's why I kind of look at it, I'm like, everything's gonna be okay.
Yes.
Don't worry. It's literally like I get in a plane and visit his world. Like when I put it on, just like watch it.
Yes.
Like I'm there. I'm immersed.
Yes.
So yeah.
So for me, the one of my biggest and most of my original motivation to get into art and Hawaiian mythology in general is Solomon Enos. Solomon that's like my Michael Jordan for what I want to do, so he's I remember seeing his art for the first time when I was going to Maui to go stay with my family for about a month when I was 15, and I saw it on the in-flight magazine on Hawaiian Airlines. And I was looking through the pages, and this was during his Kamopua'a series.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I just looked at that art. I was like, oh, this is so epic. I was glued to it for that whole half an hour we were flying over to Maui. But I took the magazine so I could look at his art while I was on Maui. So I spent a lot of time just analyzing it. And it just so happens like Jeff grew up with him, and we get to hang out now. Like we work on art together. So it's pretty amazing. So he's one of my big inspirations. And then I have just a list of other guys that I follow on Instagram. Carl Kopinski is one of my favorites. Carl Kopinski is just, his art is epic. Kim Jung-yi is amazing. To me, those guys are magicians. Like Kim Jung-yi especially, because he can draw with a pen anything that's in his mind, and it always makes sense. Like he doesn't there's no erasing pen, and he just comes out and he makes complete worlds with just going off and talking story with everybody, and it's easy for him. So he's a huge inspiration for me too. But for getting inspiration in terms of what I want to draw, I like to listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I like to play video games and then try to mash them together. So like I love Assassin's Creed Origins. I remember I was talking about that with you, Moana, when we had our panel. So I was playing Assassin's Creed. I'm still playing in Assassin's Creed Origins, where it's all based in ancient Egypt. And I always think like, oh, what if there's a game like this where it's ancient Hawaii? Like that'd be amazing. Like, I would love that. So I think about stuff like that, and then I'll look for resources, audiobook resources like King Kalakaua's Legends and Myths of Hawaii. There's a page on Instagram. I'll probably post it in one of the comments when this goes on Facebook. But there's a page on Instagram where this guy is now creating an kind of an audiobook of different chapters from that book, and he's posting it on his Instagram page in the videos. So I've been listening to that, and just listening to that while I draw, and it kind of inspires the mood and the imagery that I want to put down is whatever's coming up in my head from listening to this story. So it's kind of in some way, it's kind of like how ancient art was made, where everything was mo'olelo, everything was stories. And so you listen to stories and you let that inform your imagination, and then you use your mana to bring it out. So those are my inspirations.
Beautiful. Jack?
What about you, Jack?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought that was, if I be silent, you guys would think I was sagging out and you guys are gonna skip me. I guess not. But for me, it's kind of a double-edged sword, to be honest. And that is most of the communities I went to, whether that is Halo or SCP. I know my other two colleagues is hating me every time I said those words, and I'm not gonna say it anymore, so don't worry about that.
What is SCP, Jack?
Thank you. You beat me to it. What's SCP, Jack?
So Secure, Contain, Protect is basically a fan main horror genre. Well, they allow writers from all sects of life and basically create horror myths and horror mythology and horror stories. It could be factual, it could be fake, but in like this whole government organization template sort of. So creative writing explanation, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, like for the most part, before I met them, that was where I got most of my inspiration, was through these communities I interacted. Even right after my dad died, that was how I actually cope with a lot of stuff that I had to go through. It's by these communities and sharing each other's stories and me understanding like these complex game mechanics at a young age. And talking to these like veterans and also these military tacticians from the comic book shops, and then going back and going playing Halo and talking with other kids who just experience it and just like, oh, you want to play Infection? Shoot! Awesome! Let's do it! And like, but that's probably what inspired me to become a game developer. After having all of those community interactions, even the toxic ones, and those are the best ones because oftentimes those are what makes you remember a game. And like my brother slash cousins, me and them used to play Halo, and I used to be the one that was making the maps. So I would be making what are we playing as, and what are we doing, and what are we meant to do in this one thing. And of course, at the time, Halo had Forge, so it was really something that I was able to be a experimental game developer, even though I wasn't. Nowadays, if I need to look for inspiration or things I need to say, hey, we need to make a game about, I just go on a simple walk because a lot of times, here in Nānākuli, there's a lot of stories that I know not that could not be told. So like Hoodie was a prime example. A lot of the historical knowledge that I took from, then I didn't research off of Google. I got it from my walks, just from people talking, just from people understanding, oh, you're making this, so hey, you need to have this, bro. And just from there, me researching it, telling Alika, and then that's how we kind of made a lot of our games, like by those walks. And if not me having those walks, then one of our students are having those walks. So it's it's kind of fun going on walks. Sometimes you get homeless people trying to chase you. Sometimes you get dogs trying to chase you. But it's fun.
There's a lot of power in walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This not rushing, not having headphones. I do that as well. There's a lot. I mean, it sounds overly simplified, but the results are immediate.
You don't need a narration to be like, oh, this is a problem. If you could see it, then that's probably a problem. You just need to have that like understanding to identify it.
Yeah, our minds need space, right? To kind of
Yeah.
like, it has all these ideas, and we're constantly putting all this input in, and all the ideas are like, ah. But when you give it space, right, and you give it, space to come out, like, whoa, where did that come from? And usually it's, taking a shower or the other S word, but walks definitely as well.
Oh,
Sorry
in
for
Nānākuli.
interrupting, Jack.
Oh no! This is how we do it here, guys. Like we interrupt each other always, so expect that a lot. But yeah, and we also like in Nānākuli, other than S word, because we're on podcast, and I don't want you guys to get banned. And sleeping and walking, and on the Nānākuli, there's also fighting, and sometimes that gives you more than you are asking for. But
That's really
Yes.
cool. Yeah, I like what you said about walking giving you the space for those ideas because yeah, it's like I find like for me it's driving because I commute here it's I got to commute to work. Like it takes an hour each way sometimes. And so the sad part is like, oh, I cannot write it down. Damn it.
You gotta record.
Yeah.
So
record on your
I
phone.
use my watch for like trying to drive. Oh, it's not recording. Oh, I forgot already. Bye.
But one thing I also took out is that if I'm not remembering it at the ending of the walk, then it wasn't meant to be. So like that's why I always like, if I'm not remembering it, then it wasn't a problem I needed to ID right now. It's a problem, but it's not my Kuyana.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, I'm writing that down. It's true though. Like even with this podcast, you know, we talk to a lot of people and there's certain things that stick. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna explore that a little bit more.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, a walk is a good filter.
Yes.
Sure, for sure. So okay, so back then you guys did Huli. What are you guys currently working on now? Do you have new games going on, or what's new with you guys?
A lot. Yeah. Right now, so I think I sent you a couple of things. One of the main ones that is nearing production is Ha'awina. That game is made in collaboration with Caring for Hawaii's Neonates and Leilani Kahoano. So she's an RN at Kapiolani Hospital NICU, and she wanted to make a game about birthing and how to give birth to a healthy baby, take care of baby. And so Jeff and I we met her at Schools of the Future, which is a conference. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Cover, you have one.
Yeah. Yeah. So we met at that Schools of the Future conference where all these educators come and talk about what we've been working on throughout the year and what kind of stuff we've observed, if we wanted to make a presentation on any kind of unconventional teaching methods, whatever comes up. It's at that Schools of the Future conference, whole bunch of educational talks. So we met her there and we ended up working on this game over the course of about a year and a half. And we've got into a place in the game where the whole game takes place in a lo'i. And for everybody that doesn't know what a lo'i is, it's a taro patch. So a lo'i kalo is a taro patch. And this game is about making choices. Ha'awina means lesson or task or assignment. And so this whole game is about making choices. And the reason why we're placing it in a lo'i kalo is because in life, everybody is both the mahi'ai or farmer and the kalo or taro. So you're making the best decisions you can based on the circumstances that surround you. So as a farmer, you look at the rain, the sun, the wind, everything around you can be used to help you make decisions on how to plant well and have a good harvest. But you're also the kalo because you are the result of your own decisions. And so that's the point of this game, is to help you make decisions. So we're nearing the production of this game, and I just got to finish the rule book on that. And one of the other projects we're working on is the Kauhale cast.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say our augmented reality, but yes.
Oh yeah,
See, again, we
that one
just,
too.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that one too.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, the other one we're working on is the Kauhale cast, and that one is based on mo'olelo and the importance of mo'olelo. And brought that up earlier in the podcast, where mo'olelo's stories, ancient stories or modern stories that teach you what the values of a culture, of specifically Hawaiian culture, is. So that's why I feel like mo'olelo is so important. And I wanted to collect mo'olelo from Hawaiians that we've observed and respect. And we want to hear their opinions and thoughts and whatever stories they have in their mind, so that we can preserve these values in perpetuity for anybody that wants to learn about what Hawaiian culture really is. Just listen to the stories. let Hawaiian stories tell you what the culture is. And so, yeah, that's on Apple Podcasts right now. We're 2 episodes in. We have 2 more recorded, so we're waiting on me to come up with the show art for that, and then we'll put those up. And then Jeff, we're also working on the augmented reality game for Ka'ala Farm.
You're gonna say we're making a game of Jeff. Live 24 hours in a boring game. That would be. Sorry.
It's just gonna have a face of him, like of different time frames.
So yeah, this is our big project. So much like how we had talked about Huli, and in between Huli we had all these other games like the depressing game, a game about high school depression, all this other stuff. This Ka'ala game, so Ka'ala Farms, is a farm that I grew up. So Solomon's dad is kind of I don't know if Uncle Eric would want to be called a steward, but that's kind of what he is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of what he is, Konahiki,
He's the Konahiki
right?
of that area.
Yeah, of that farm. And so this is through another PALS initiative, and we're partnering with Purple Maya with this, and it's a lot of things. It's kind of hard to put your finger on. There is a virtual reality experience, which can be, so let me take a step back. So there's an off-premise way to experience it, which is you can put on a virtual reality headset or through your browser, and you can kind of go through this interactive animation of this story. And then there's an on-premise augmented reality game that we're building, and we're kind of making up the technology as we're going along, and that's what's kind of taking so long, because what we're doing is we're doing something. Actually, we should probably give it a name, Alika. Because it's an audio augmented reality experience, and how we arrived at that was when we went up there. One of the first things we're like, "Okay, we're gonna make a game about this place. We should let the land inform us on what this game should be, not what we think the game should be." So we went up there and we're walking around, and at first it was going to be, you walk around with your phone and there's like an augmented image over everything. So you kind of move, you maybe see the farm, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or something like that. That'd be cool, sure. But it became very apparent to me that why the hell we're going to have students and players looking at their phone when there's all this majesty here, right? Like why are you looking down? We don't want them to look down. We want them to see this. You're up here. So, but at the same time, there should be some kind of interactivity, some kind of gaming experience, and we didn't want to just do like a museum thing where you put on a headset and you go to a place and this was the this town was for, I don't know why I have that voice or whatever. So we decided that what we're going to do is we're going to have misplaced mo'olelo or stories. So when you go near to this proximity device, your phone automatically starts saying, like, again, all things go back to Hayao Miyazaki, like a Hayao Miyazaki story almost, where there's this spirit there that's like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be right now. Please help me find that. So you pick up the object, right? So it'll be like a device within some kind of a stone or something like that, and then as you walk around, the narrative changes and is beginning to tell what he is, his story or her story as you walk. And the closer so like if you start, remember like before as kids, we used to play, what is that? Like hot, cold.
Yeah.
So like as and you gotta listen. Like, I remember back in the day where children would come and, put their feet in my waters. Okay, it's probably somewhere near a stream. So they gotta walk around and look for a stream. But if you go further away from a stream, then the story begins to repeat itself, and you're like, oh, okay. So it kind of cements that idea in the players, right? So again, because we don't, it's not just like everything we do surface level, it's a game, but that's kind of the ruse. It's also a deeper learning spiritual experience of everything that we do. So you put, you'll be walking around the farm and you put it back, and then the story thanks you, and then you move on to the next thing. So that's our Ka'ala. And from that, the Kahale cast came up because we were collecting mo'olelo for the game, like kind of like building a database of like traditional
Yes.
stories to be used up there.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just gave me such an inspiration for one of my children's books. I was like, I'm stuck right
Awesome.
here. Like, how am I? Oh man, yes, I'm so excited. Okay, I love
Right
this
on.
idea. Please
Awesome.
continue. How
Yeah.
can we support?
Yes.
I love
yes.
it. I love it.
That's the sign that we are doing our jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now,
Oh,
we
this
do
is
have a
awesome.
question from
yeah.
someone in our audience. They ask, what do you make your games in? Unreal, Unity?
Mm.
Go, Jack.
So we make analog games predominantly.
Oh.
We make board and card games, but in terms of the coding, so this is another cool thing. So I am pretty much like I'm not tech illiterate. I understand technology, but I don't do like coding or anything like that. Like I still struggle with setting up my Zoom correctly. So
I
that
think
is
we all
there.
do. I
Like
think we all do.
that's
So
that's Jeff and Jack. Yeah, that's Jeff and Jack. So they can talk with your guys' games that you're learning right now. Like Jack is learning Unity. Jeff, take it away, sir, in terms of the digital stuff.
Well,
Jeff and Jack.
I think Jack was going to answer.
Jack,
actually,
go
so
for
Yeah.
it, Jack.
I'll
So-
take a step back.
Right now we're focusing using on Unity mostly because it's very easy to use. There is no upfront cost, and there's only a cost if you somehow make $100,000 games. And with the products we're making, it's usually free and all for the community. So that means we're not seeing a huge profit margin. So that's why we're using Unity much more. We do use Unreal Engine sometimes, but it's not for game development. Usually, it's for one-off projects. At least that's what I use it for. You could jump in from here, Mr. V, whenever you wanna come. But
Okay.
for
Oh no, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. No, go ahead. You said jump in, and then you kept talking. I don't understand. I'm
He said
confused.
jump in and he kept talking.
Mr. V, and then he's like rapping, and then he takes the mic back. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just
Yeah.
beatbox in the corner.
no, but we also use virtual means to do our analog games. For example, Tabletop Simulator is one that I've been using a lot for a couple of our projects that is still analog for Arvina when we wasn't able to meet in person and test out gameplay. So there is multiple ways you could do it. Game development does not mean you're coding up, being a hacker man. It's more game.
Indeed. Lots of duct tape and caffeine. Sorry.
Game development can be as easy as you grabbing a pencil and pen and just writing
absolutely.
it down. And that's what I feel a lot of people have this misconception about game development, because I don't know math. I have hard time with fractions, and I'm still coding. That's one of the biggest things. Like, you don't need to be awesome at everything to be a game developer. You could be okay. You could be awesome in that.
Yeah.
But just add one more thing to that, Jack. So whatever tools we do use, we try to stay away from things that people can't afford. So like whatever tools we're using. So when we have conversations like this, we can say, oh yeah, we use this open source thing called Visual Studio, right? Or we use something like Unity, right? We put that on a shirt, right?
Yeah.
And then especially for our students, right? Especially for our students, so that they can go home and continue coding. Yeah. We're gonna put that. I think that'll be our slogan.
There you go.
No, please, no.
I gotta draw fingers like blurring on a keyboard.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Do
Like a
it.
neon light.
Cyberpunk 2077. Oy, vey. And I just started the meme for you guys. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I love it. I'm with the t-shirt idea. We might have to use this as our next campaign. We're gonna have like, you got the do shirt.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Now, of course, especially working with students and, trying not only to inspire them to, like you said, code and do all those things, because there sometimes is that disconnect in education that it doesn't appeal because all they hear is numbers and math, and it's not going to be anything interesting. How do you appeal through your program to appeal to the students and teenagers and stuff to want to show them that this world is more than that I guess you could say surface appearance of just numbers and code and a whole bunch of just boring stuff?
Who wants to start with this one?
So I hide the pill in the food, right? So
Alika, slow process.
We do not try and hide any drugs or stuff in our food.
Yeah. Oh, not literally.
Literally.
But so
it's like,
one of the things I like to do
that they take, right?
Yeah.
Out of context becomes the thing. I heard
nothing
you guys.
Nothing against the will. But yeah. So I the last class that we had, in order to teach them, so my stuff that I focus on is the art side of it and how to take the narrative mechanics, all of that, and turn it into a visual product. And so what I did last year we had class was to bring in, I started asking them what kind of animes they like to watch. Like, what kind of stuff do you guys like to watch? And so they would give me anime clips and certain animes that they like, and I would bring clips into class. And then we would analyze these animes together. And I would tell them stuff like, okay, let's look at what angle are we looking at here? What is the camera angle of this? What is the intention behind this? And why are they moving off screen to the right instead of to the left? What are they trying to say? And so we talk about that through this medium of anime. And then when we started making the games, they had inherently, they picked it up. Okay, we should do this kind of a shot, or we should have this kind of a scene for this card. And it was natural. So I didn't really have to teach them anything. I would just talk about stuff while we're watching anime. And it was really easy for them to pick up that way. So that's kind of one of the methods that I have.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Really good question. My methods have definitely changed. As became more and more experienced doing this. But fundamentally, with the coding aside and the game development aside, is just really being absolutely honest with the kids and being just straight up. Like, they know what's going on. If I don't know something, I tell them I don't know something, and just being at their level, right? Like not talking at them, talking with them. So like fundamentally, what we're learning, that aside, that is always the approach that I bring. And then the other thing is, everything is fun. We never remove fun from any activity that we're doing. And we've been in some really serious meetings with we do these talks, and like all these people are like behind us and kind of looking at us, and like we almost come off sometimes as aloof or silly, but we think that's the secret medicine. Because it just kind of, you can see like people's like their body language will start shifting, and then they'll start kind of smiling and laughing, and they become more receptive. It's the same thing with kids, right? Because kids are still trying to figure out who they are, where they are in the place in the world, and if they think they figure it out, 10 years it's going to change, right? Mm-hmm. And then so there's that fun. And then the other thing too, this is something recently, right, Alika, where we've been kind of on this kick, especially because of the post-COVID world, is as programmers, I'm sure game designers are going to be there forever, and then art and creatives will always be there forever. But like we're like our school system is built around, you know, everybody knows this industrialized system to like get this worker, right? Like you're going to do this thing, your identity. Like, you know, when you meet somebody, what do you do? You know, I am a. That is who I am, right?
Yeah.
What happens when that goes away? Then who are you, right? Like these, you know, jobs change, you know, these things evolve. So fundamentally, you know, we use that word a lot, but fundamentally is just thinking differently and the ability to like be scared and adapt to situations that come before you. And then we just use the gaming platform for that.
We just had a career day with Hawai'i Intermediate School. It was amazing.
So cool, man.
Yeah. It was so awesome. And that's one of the things that we try to let them know is that creativity is the future. It's not jobs and labor anymore. Like we've pretty much figured out all the tiny the inevitable.
Kevin Kelly.
Because we've pretty much figured out
is the market that continues to climb, right? Whether it's VR experience, you know, tourism experience, whatever, like experienced content creators, it just keeps, because that's something that you can't code or build an AI or a system to do.
Yeah, it's not an industrialized process that anybody can do. So people want to know who you are and what your story is, and that's why, you know, doubling down on your creativity is very important, especially right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like even in like traditional job environments, right? Like, and you ask people like, what are they looking for when they're hiring new people onto their team, right? Like we want people who are open to new ideas, who can take a problem and look at it from a different point of view and find like creative solutions that obviously haven't been working. That's why we're out looking for new people, right? So yeah, creativity is super important. And you know, sometimes I like, at least for me, like I felt like, oh, I'm not creative, but like there's different ways that you can define what creative means, right? It's not just art, right? It could be so many different things. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's why you calling me creative. Okay, sure. Yeah, I do that, you know, like do.
Oh, boy.
Jack leaving his footprints everywhere you go.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everybody's an artist. That's something I truly believe. Like if you don't have to be a visual artist or, you know, like the traditional idea of what an artist is. If you put your intention and your diligence into creating something that is better than it was before, you're an artist. So whether that be a system or whether that be like you're fixing cars, whatever, anything that you do, just do it with intention and diligence and create something new out of it. Now you're an artist. Congrats. Yeah.
Welcome to the Ohana. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this has been such an amazing talk. Like, we need to have a panel in the future on like some creative ways to, because like one of the things I've been kind of considering is how we can leverage the community that we're building, the creative community that we're building, to better serve schools, particularly in communities of color that are marginalized, and the curriculum that is placed upon us is foreign. I mean, that's why I didn't like history when I was young. You know, like I was like, why are you telling me about American history? What about my people right here? Tell me Hawaii history, you know, like, so you guys are giving us a lot of ideas on how we can incorporate some new content and hopefully have you guys back. Especially Jack, like, you know, like I love what Jeff said, like, okay, I have my art person in one pocket and then I have Jeff over here. Like, is this fun to kids, right? Because that's who we're trying to get to, because those are the young minds that we need to shape.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. Thank you guys so much for coming on tonight. So if folks want to follow your guys' journey on the games, or, you know, you guys individually, where's the best place for people to, you know, come and learn more about you, whether the company and individually?
So the website, theorycraftist.com, Games has our projects. It's a little outdated. There's this missing a couple of projects there, but I mean you get and I still use it for a reference because when we engage in project, it gives them kind of a breath of like, you know, all the stuff that we're kind of capable of doing, or like some ideas that we do. So that would be a good place to start. You can always email us at theorycraftistgames@theorycraftist.com. We're pretty booked for project wise, but you know, we're always happy to talk story or, you know, get on a call like this and you know, help you out in your game design journey.
Game development is supposed to be fun, and we're just trying to help you guys out as much as we can.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to listen to our beautiful voices talk story about different gaming articles and, you know, different topics, we have a podcast that we do every week called The Board State.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah.
That is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And Apple Podcasts, yeah?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it is, and you know, well, it's PG, you know, we
bleep stuff
we're
out.
not going to point any fingers here, but you know, sometimes stuff comes out. But it's just you know, we take off the guardrails and we're just, you know, we talk about and all our topics. So we each pick an article, and the article is about game design for social change. But from that, you know, it's the beautiful things about a medium like this is the tangents, right? Like you kind of set up the ecosystem, and then you just kind of sit back, you know, unbuckle the seatbelt and just see, you know, let go the steering wheel and just kind of see where it goes, and you arrive at some beautiful places. So that's what the board state is.
You get two Portuguese on a podcast.
Yeah.
So, and for all the non-Hawaii people,
there, man.
Okay.
yeah, for all the non-Hawaii people, Portuguese
Disclaimer.
talk a whole lot. We talk all the time. So,
Yeah.
With the occasional French brought into the conversation.
yeah, the occasional, that final cherry on top of it. Yeah.
And then we're always like shocked, right? We're always like, oh, you said it was almost like a glass fell. We're like, oh.
Moving on, and that's usually what that's it.
And Jack does the editing for most of it, so it's like
Yeah.
there's amazing editing work. Like we get a peek into his brain when he edits our podcast.
So there's two different sides. There's the unedited version where you have no way of what I'm thinking of, and then there's the edited version.
Yeah, because sometimes he says stuff that doesn't make sense, and then he edits it, and then it's like, oh, I totally get why you said that.
So just to kind of have a visual. So he'll do like, you know, like some stock photos or stock video, and it's always like just so hilarious. It'd be like this, you know, this white dude with like a suit comes in, he's like, you know, he's like talking to a secretary, you know, like no. It's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Change the audio here, make it look like I'm talking about the Empire here.
So Jeff, I mean not Jeff, Jack, do you I gotta ask now, do you do editing for anybody else's podcast?
No. Not right now. And
Would you be willing to?
no.
We can talk story. I think
Yeah,
it would be
we
cool to
talk
have like
story.
a special you know what? I would love to see your edit of this episode.
Yes.
That would be
Awesome.
so fun.
Yeah, you can talk story about that.
Yeah, no, because we're just looking for ways to continue to highlight our guests and, you know, work together within the community. I mean, Alika knows this. We've talked about this, and he's been connected with Davey, and they've made some amazing art for Black History Month. It's always awesome to see what comes out of the community.
Yeah.
And it's just been so good fun talking with you guys today, because
Yeah,
we could literally like sit outside in the garage and talk about this for like hours. Like, okay, who get the green bottles? Who bring in a pocket?
Literally.
Like,
Drink some
Literally.
beverages, maybe put on your shoes. Oh, be there for 3 days.
Yeah.
Done.
awesome. Well, so anything else you would like to say to the audience before we close out for tonight?
Thank you for listening. And follow us, and we look forward to surprising you with all the stuff that we make from this point forward.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Right on. Well, thank you to all of our listeners, whether you are watching live now. Thank you for tuning in or on the replay, because man, this was so fun. Oh, this could go so many different directions. My head is going like this now. But I'm
Good.
gonna remember what
Yeah.
Jack said. He said,
Awesome.
if you don't
Good.
remember it, then
Good
it's
you
not
do.
your kuleana. Okay.
Exactly.
I love that. I'm putting that on a shirt.
Yeah.
So
Okay, do and not your kuleana. All right. Got it.
Be like the
I don't know if that should be on the
serious
same
quote,
shirt though.
but it will be like so small, like in 12-point font.
Yeah,
I did
be
that.
like, what is
52,
that?
50 font.
it would be very relevant. That's how you are when you're coding. Like, where is
Yeah.
my error? Where?
Yeah. Oh, it's that one semicolon and 3,000
Yes.
lines of text.
Oh, man. Don't get me started. I have flashbacks of college now.
Yeah, we look forward to coming back.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
We will
I would love a part
definitely.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Did we
Moana
lost
froze.
connection?
Yes, I
Oh.
think she froze on.
be reaching out. 'Cause
Oh, there you are. There you
She
are.
is. She's back.
Hey!
Am I back? Oh
Yes.
My gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
There you go.
internet. Sorry, guys. See, they're coming in the matrix. Uh, follow the
Digital
white
hit AR
rabbit.
coming in.
The blue or the red.
Yes. But yeah, definitely we'll be in touch for future panels and engagements and opportunities to work together
Yes.
again. But yeah, so again, thank you, mahalo nui to all of our listeners, live and recorded. We really appreciate you guys' support for the podcast. If you guys want to take a look at our Kickstarter one last time, in the banner below, moananuipodcast.com. Any amount helps, even if you can just share it to somebody on your timeline and help other people see what we're doing. We're having a great time building this podcast and speaking with these wonderful people who take times out of their very busy days to share with us, share their stories, share their mo'olelo, and just ensuring that our culture in the different aspects continues to perpetuate for the wonderful youth like Jack and everybody who he is around, and helping them to also become leaders within the space. So again, mahalo nui. We really appreciate you guys. Check us out on YouTube and Twitch. Subscribe to those as well. Moana Nui Podcast on all of those platforms. And if you like the audio version, we are also on all of the Google, Apple, all the fun podcast places where you can check us out in our episodes as well. So, Dana, any last words?
Once again, like Moana said, you only have less than 24 hours to support the Moana Nui Podcast. We just opened up some additional incentives. And of course, we're trying to push for one last incentive before the very end of our Kickstarter. So definitely share, contribute where you can. And definitely this allows us to continue connecting, as Moana said, to creatives within our community that is giving voice to all the awesome creatives within the Native Hawaiian, the Pacific Islander, and the Asian American community. So we thank you all for being a part. Thank you for tuning in and watching the rewatch. And once again, definitely follow our wonderful guests up above, and either on their website or tune into their podcast and catch them unfiltered. But we thank them so much for joining us, and we thank all of you. Have a great evening, and definitely tune in tomorrow for our closing ceremonies that we will be having to close out our Kickstarter. So definitely tune in tomorrow for that.
Alrighty, guys.
Right on. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Until we meet again. Aloha, malama pono, ahuiho.
Ciao.